Buenos días.
Good morning, everybody. Before we begin the meeting, I would like to tell you the channels for the interpretation so that you know where to find the right language. English is on channel 1, French on 2, Spanish on 3,
Number 4, German. Number 5, Russian. Number 6, Chinese. Number 7, Arabic. Okay. Bueno.
I'd like to welcome all of you. We have many women present and we're very happy to see you. Thank you for all being here. We would like to welcome you to this first midterm Congress, which, as you know, is a part of the new system of governance of FIBA, one FIBA as we call it. There are many reasons for this, but the idea is to be closer to you, and not just to see you every 4 years, but to see you more frequently. It is important for us to hear from you, and you see the projects that we're running, and that we can also provide reports to you on our activities, because you are our affiliates. It is you who control FIBA. It's very moving for us on this side of the room to see so many national federations here present. And it is you who allow us to spread our sport to every corner of the world. Therefore, I would like to thank all of you for the efforts that you put into this, for being here present in Hong Kong. Could I also stress, amongst other things, the following people who are with us at the opening of the Congress. Mr. Saiking Ju, who is the Vice President of the Olympic Committee, and Deputy Minister of Sport of China. You are very welcome. Mr. Timothy Fock, who is the President of the Hong Kong Olympic Committee. And Kal Ching, who is the Honorary President of FIBA and the Honorary President of the National Committee of Hong Kong. Mr. Bob Elphinston, who past President of FIBA. Very welcome, Bob. And Manfred Troy, who is the Honorary Treasurer of FIBA and the current Treasurer of the FIBA Foundation. To begin this Congress and to open it, I would now like to ask Kal Chin, our honored host. Please, you have the floor.
Honorable Dr. Yi Cheng, IOC Vice President, Mr. Timothy Fock, Hong Kong IOC President, FIBA President Orissa, FIBA Secretary General Patrick Bowman, Central Board members, and members of all our FIBAs, friends, guests, ladies and gentlemen. As the Honorary President of FIBA and the Honorary President of Hong Kong Basketball Association, I would like to welcome all of you to come to our beautiful city, Hong Kong. I hope all of you have a happy stay in this island. Anything we can do for you, please let me know. You want shopping, you want sightseeing, you want to do anything, please let us know. I must thank you, our President and our Secretary General. They backed me up, make the Congress here in Hong Kong, in this smaller city. We only have 7 million people. but we all love basketball. I played basketball since I was 7 years old. And then I retired at the age of 21, very bad. Because 21, I already become the Hong Kong-based team's coach and team manager. I also have a very honorary memory for basketball. Our NBA representative is here. In 1984, I was the team manager and head coach of the NBA All-Star team, Gloria team. I have a very good player, Crystal Pitt, Marvel State. We have Rick Barry. We have Air Monroe, L. Ispel. We have a very good NBA coach called, he was the coach of Michael Jordan, Chicago. He was the coach of Kobe Bryant of Lakers. Do you know who is this gentleman? We take them to play in Beijing because that's time President Ronald Reagan of the United States visit China. He was my good friend. And then he asked me to form this team. We have the full support of Mr. David Stern, the NBA commissioner. I took the NBA region team to China, to Korea, to Philippines, and Hong Kong. We play. This is one of the the best basketball team in Asia. I have very honor to be the team manager and head coach. And then basketball is my life. Now I'm 77 years old. Every day I will basketball. Without basketball, I cannot sleep, I cannot eat. I also thank you. All you support basketball. Anyway, we thank you. You come here from many different countries. We hope you have a really very happy stay and bring nice memory home. Thank you. God bless you.
Carl, just a moment. The President will give a token of appreciation to our former President and host. Please don't misunderstand when you said ask him for anything when you're here, however. Okay?
He's my good friend for many years.
Bueno, a continuación.
Thank you. Next, I'm happy to invite the President of the Hong Kong Olympic Committee to take the floor and address us.
Anyhow, I don't have the credential like Dr. Ching. All I have is a desk job at the Olympic Committee. Anyhow, I'd like to thank very much for allowing me to address this distinguished audience. And President, and also especially my good friend, Mr. Bowman, I consider not only a colleague, but also a dear friend. And I think under the leadership of Dr. Ching, basketball become one of the most important game. And I think we also have a very good local league. And this is a special year for us. This is actually the 20 years we have returned to China. And this is very much part of our celebration. On the day before we hand over, one of the most distinguished calendar will be Mr. Yao Ming, as you know, that now become the new president of the Chinese Basketball Olympic, will have a celebration team to celebrate this special occasion. And especially after the handover, sports become a very much part of the Hong Kong's activities. And actually, the recent government has actually put in a very large budget to promote sports in this town. As you know, that the new airport, used to be an old airport, will be built a new stadium. Actually would be finished by 2022. Hopefully would be a lot of the international sport can be done here. Lastly, I know that next year we have the World Cup in mainland China. And I wish at one time that Hong Kong could share that, because like the Olympic, Hong Kong was giving the honor during the question. But anyhow, I know that the 4 of the major cities in the southern China would be part of the host. And I know those cities are very much part of our ancestral homes. And as you know, that you will see that some of the biggest infrastructure is being built in southern China. And I think that the idea was actually everything will be reached within the province under an hour. And I think that and it would become part of the new development. I think it's extremely exciting. In the end, again, thank you very much for allowing to say a few words. I hope you have a wonderful time in Hong Kong and enjoy yourself. And I think that meanwhile, thank you for coming here. It gave a lot of a boost to the development of basketball in Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Bueno, ahora
Thank you. As I said to the Vice President of the International Olympic Committee and the Deputy Sport Minister of China, and he was a member of the Central Board of FIBA, and this is Shaking Zhu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are basketball. It is a great pleasure to address you on this occasion of the first FIBA Midterm Congress. Thank you, President Horacio Murator and Secretary General, my IOC colleague, Patrick Bowman, for this kind invitation. It is wonderful to be among friends to discuss some important innovation that will shape the future of the sport that we all love so much. Let me convey the greetings and best regards of the IOC President Thomas Bach, who wish you, all of you, very successful midterm Congress here in Hong Kong. As President Bach has pointed out recently, the success of the Olympic Games, Rio de Janeiro 2016, would not have been possible without the great commitment and the determination that the international federations has shown. The involvement of the international federations in the delivery of these games were greater and more important than ever before. So let me take this opportunity to express the sincere gratitude and thanks of the IOC for all of the FIBA's contribution to the success of the Olympic Games Rio 2016. Basketball was once more a highlight sport in Rio de Janeiro, giving us many iconic moments. The strong standing of basketball in Olympic sport today is certainly thanks to the important works of all of you, but also of the vision and the leadership of your President, Horacio Murator. Everyone at FIBA understand the need for continuous innovation to adapt the realities of the fast-changing world. The role of sport in society is constantly evolving too. Innovation becomes the key to adapt to this new reality. Innovation for the future of basketball is exactly what is on the agenda for the midterm Congress. The topics on the program of midterm Congress clearly show how quickly FIBA has embraced the spirit of Olympic Agenda 2020. The strategic roadmap for the future of the Olympic movement. You focus on new inclusive competition system for national teams will broaden the already global appeal of basketball. It will bring the values of sport to more people in more regions around the world. This inclusive focus is also very much in line with our overarching goal to promote the role of sport in society and making sport an integral part of people's lives. By changing and adopting the event format and structures, you are reaching many more people with the excitement of basketball. It can only be our shared interest to grow the popularity of basketball around the world, making it more inclusive and reaching even more communities and social groups with the power of sport. Innovation means changing and adapting to the new realities of our fast-changing world. Just a few weeks ago, basketball was at the heart of a historical moment for sport in Iran, when men were allowed to witness a women's sporting event in person for the first time in the country. Not only was this a special moment for the unifying power of sport, but it was also an opportunity for FIBA to observe a game with players wearing headscarves. This midterm Congress will allow you to demonstrate that FIBA is drawing the lessons for the future of basketball from this historical moment. Guided by the Olympic principle of inclusiveness and non-discrimination, I'm sure that you will take right decisions that will deepen the worldwide appeal of basketball even more. Engaging with the youth is another major cornerstone of Olympic Agenda 2020. Also in this respect, FIBA is leading the way by promoting innovative new game formats that have greater youth appeal. The unique 3-on-3 competition formats clearly resonate with the young people everywhere. We saw the excitement that 3-on-3 brings when it made its debut at the YOG Nanjing 2014. The IOC is now carefully considering FIBA's request to have 3-on-3 included as part of Olympic basketball program at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. With the widely popular format, FIBA is setting an example of how to bring greater youth appeal to the Olympic Games program. The IOC looks forward to continuing the fantastic collaboration with FIBA in the lead up to the YOG Buenos Aires 2018 and the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. We must ensure that the Olympic values resonate with the next generation. This is where the Olympic Channel will help us spread these values 365 days a year. Olympic Channel was, of course, another headline recommendation of the Olympic Agenda 2020. It's therefore very encouraging to see that you are also discussing basketball in digital age. Here at the midterm Congress, the digital age opens up new opportunities for all of us. For FIBA and IOC, this also means new area of collaboration, especially with the launch of the Olympic Channel last year. If we want to encourage with the youth of today, and ensure that our Olympic value continue to be relevant for the next generation, we cannot wait for young people to come to us. We have to go to them. As we all know, the youth of today are increasingly digital and living online lives. The Olympic Channel is our way to go where the youth are. The Olympic Channel is our key to promote Olympic sport in the digital age and to reach young people everywhere with the magic and the values of sport. Innovation means change the way we do things for the better. This is also the ideal behind Olympic Agenda 2020. Looking at the state of basketball and the way that FIBA is set up, I think you can look to the future with confidence. This midterm Congress is an important milestone, giving you the opportunity to review the development since the 2014 FIBA Congress. It will be a moment to take stock of youth strategy to develop and innovate the game. If I may add this observation, in this sense, the midterm Congress is similar to the first Olympism in Action Forum for the IOC. The Olympism in Action Forum will be a half-time assessment of the impact of Olympic Agenda 2020. Like the midterm Congress, it is an excellent opportunity to look back at what we have already achieved with Olympic Agenda 2020. It is even more important to look ahead at what still needs to be done. This is why your meeting is so important in our fast-changing world. Organizations need to constantly adapt and innovate to keep pace with the change in the modern society. As a former FIBA Central Board member, it's very rewarding for me personally to see that the future of basketball is so bright. You can build on strong foundation and have a clear vision for where you want to go. Let me reiterate that you can always count on the IOC as a partner by your side. We know that we can only make progress together. Shaping the future of sport can only be done in cooperation. This is the offer and commitment of the IOC to you. Let us be united to our shared goal of promoting the role of sport in society. Together, we can make the world a better place through sport. In this spirit of partnership and cooperation, I wish you fruitful discussion and a successful midterm Congress here in Hong Kong. Thank you very much for your attention.
Bueno,
Thank you very much. What we're now going to do is basically get on to the formal agenda. We have now opened the Congress, so perhaps I could now ask the Secretary to do the roll call. Patrick?
Mr. President, thank you. As it relates to the roll call, we have taken a view that we will not go country by country today through the lists of who is present. We are having, that might take about 20 minutes or to half an hour, and the main purpose of today is to get together with the workshops and to exchange. So I just want to inform you that obviously the whole Central Board is here at your disposal, and the Executive Committee, together with presidents of commissions, whether it is the Governance Commission with Mr. Vasilakopoulos, whether it's the Legal Commission with Abdullah Lanzari, or the Competition Commission with Mr. Bazzi, or together with the guests that our President has introduced to you. I wish also to quickly give you the greetings of Mr. Stankovic, our Emeritus Secretary General, who has decided not to travel to Hong Kong, and this is certainly not to be disrespectful to our good host, Carr. It's just simply very far away, but I can reassure you that his mind and brain function as if he was still Secretary General, and he is absolutely on top of everything that is happening. And the second person that I would like to greet here, and that is absent for independent of his own will, is our good friend and past President Yvon Mainini, who is currently trying to get better from a serious sickness. So now, in terms of national federations, we had 158 national federations that registered. There are still a few that are landing or in the traffic from the airport to here. Currently, right now in the room, 136 countries are present. Mr. President, that concludes the roll call for this moment.
gracias, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. This will take us to item 2 of our agenda, which is the approvals. The first is approval of the actual agenda that we have. You already had this in quite good time for the meeting, so we would submit the agenda to you. I think this is a bit of a new departure for us, really, because what we wanted to do is to use this midterm Congress, where there are no elections, to just interact directly with you, as Patrick has already said. We want to look at important things that we have to discuss. We want to get your opinions as well. There are a number of formal things that we have to go through as well. That being said, then, can I put the agenda to you for approval?
Okay.
Is it approved then? Thank you very much. Thus approved. Now, you also have in your working documents, page 13 and onwards, you've got the report of the last Congress. So could I submit this to you for approval? Does anyone have anything to say? Anyone want to say anything on this report? Okay. Thank you very much. That is thus approved. That is item 2 of our agenda. Now we go on to item 3 of the agenda, which means that I myself am called upon, and I would just say a few words to you.
Bueno,
Colleagues and friends, it is a great pleasure to welcome you to this midterm Congress in this wonderful city of Hong Kong. I would like to express my gratitude to our generous hosts for the wonderful hospitality they're offering us. For decades, the presidents of FIBA just were able to set out their plans on the day that they were elected. And then 4 years on, they had to give a report on the work that they have done as their term came to an end. I feel very happy that I have this privilege, which is different. That is to say that I can now present to our membership, to all of you, what we have achieved in the first half of my term. And we can discuss with you the projects that are underway for the next 2 years. Sometimes you ask me when I go to events, when we're at meetings or when I'm being interviewed, what is one FIBA exactly? And my response is relatively easy to give. We are a basketball family, and we recognize that developing our sport is something that is going to happen by strengthening our national federations. This is an overarching principle, and this is something that has to be mainstreamed in all the work that we do. We have to do this at continental, global, and national level. And it's at national level that we have to concentrate our focus, and that is indeed what we've done over the last 2 years. I'm convinced that all of you will have seen FIBA representatives coming to your countries to listen to you, to talk to you, to assess and to offer help. We have visited 180 federations over the last 2 years. All of us are working together on this. We are developing certain tools so that we can help each of the federations in turn. Regional offices have been involved. The National Federation Department and the International Basketball Foundation all have been pulling together here so to achieve this objective. It is important that we grow our membership, and we want to share with our members our desire to bring innovation, professionalism, and dedication to the development of basketball. At policy level, we now have got a working group for the development of federations for the first time, and it will work on specific recommendations which have been well thought through, and we can then submit these to the membership at all levels. We have experts in FIBA who meet with experts from national federations, and they work together on support measures. At this juncture, we have to look at the type of help and support that FIBA can give. You will see in the activity report of the media and marketing departments, and you will see that they are meeting their commercial objectives, and they are providing to us the resources that we need for the development programs. Be that as it may, we are not a commercial organization that simply distributes earnings to its members. Our mission is called Global Basketball. We are going to be at your side, and we are going to offer our knowledge. We're going to offer technological backup, educational and sporting programs, and where necessary, we will provide human resources so that you can grow. We have clear objectives, and there is no doubt here that the best way to bring prosperity to basketball are national squads. The new competition format that we have is going to be starting in November, and we will have a record number of teams, more than 140. And they will have 6 windows to play in. This opens up great opportunities, and we can bring the stars closer to their fans. We can create new idols. We can bring basketball to each country, and we can generate new resources. This calendar offers opportunities to us, but is at one at the same time a great challenge. The times when it was enough just to get a team together and just travel to an event was enough. Now we have to do more. So I hope that you harness your enthusiasm and that we can work together to increase the level of basketball in our respective countries. We have done more than 50 seminars to provide information, and the FIBA staff will always be available to you to help with your projects and to help you with any doubts you might have. To facilitate us in this task, we are now looking at the most important expenses. We will cover television production, we will help with officials and some players, and we will be involved in all qualifying matches for the World Cup. The national federations will be able to control their own games, and this will be a real festival of basketball, and they will be able to put this center stage of their sporting calendars and guarantee players the best possible conditions. Now, of course, this won't be the end of our work. The four strategic pillars that we adopted in 2014 are going to be achieved, and they are all making progress. Now, one of these, which is the 3-on-3 discipline, which is in the commercial interests, after a small startup, is now something which we hope to attract millions of workers who are at the moment outside our structure. And this has been played in 2 youth Olympics, and a world tour has been done, and this is a viable and attractive game. Another discipline that all national federations are interested in, not only because it offers us an opportunity to get medals, and countries with less of a basketball tradition can win medals, but also because 3-on-3 attracts players, fans, and sponsors, and it is a different group of people that it appeals to than the 5-on-5. 3-on-3 is based on the principle of inclusion. And that shows the difference between our federation and others. We, within our basketball family, want that those who play street ball, those who play pickup games, and also the promoters who invest money in these games can be attracted. And it is quite possible that in some parts of the world where there are no major facilities, but there is a love for the game, and we want to tap into that potential. What we're looking at is a model for developing the 3-on-3, and we see this as one of the most accessible games for young people, and we see it as a new sport which will attract many, many of them. And we are therefore awaiting for the news from the International Olympic Committee this summer, and this will give us another push in developing basketball with the presence of both disciplines in the forthcoming Olympic Games. We do hope we will get support from our friends on the IOC in this. There is another. We had success with 3-on-3, and we also see this as a commitment for the coming years. A new vision. Another thing is a new vision for women's game. This is going to become, we believe, the #1 women's game in the world. We have now started discussions on this, but we are determined to bring this game forward and to bring to the 2019 Congress a specific action program for the women's basketball game. We believe this is something that warrants our full and complete attention and support. Perhaps I could just digress for a moment. While we're talking about the Central Board and the Executive Committee, I would like to tell you, and I'm happy to do this, that yesterday the Central Board, on the suggestion of the President and the Secretary General, agreed that the following would join the Central Board. Ms. Juko Mitsuya, who is the president of the Japanese National Federation. Please, if you could stand up. Thank you. Mr. Zhao Min, the president of the Chinese Federation.
Mr.
Andrei Kirilenko from the Russian Federation, president of the Russian Federation. Mr. Aftesser Soy from Greece, from the Europe FIBA Central Board. And also, we decided that the members of the Central Board, Ms. Lena Walling, who is the Secretary General of the Swedish, would now become a member of the FIBA Executive. Lena? Thank you very much. We've been able to do a great deal in a short time, and we're going to continue to do that, because we have genuine passion for our sport, and we have the structures in place which mean that we can harness and channel that passion, and we can convert it into effective work. The structure that we approved in 2014, the One FIBA, has already proven its worth. The new governance that we have is a modern model for sport, and other federations are currently looking at our programs. Implementation of our governance has happened at a satisfactory pace, and coordination between the Central Board, the Executive Committee, and the zonal offices is not just an idea, it is now a reality. The idea of One FIBA is an expression of effective administration. We're not trying to centralize powers. What we want to do is optimize what we do so that we can decentralize with more resources, and we can give a priority to what is the most important, and that is the development of the game. The the zones and the sub-zone offices are no longer policy bodies. They are ways to develop the game, because no one knows the region better than those who work there on the ground. We therefore have the vital contribution from our commissions, the volunteers who give of their time and effort in the various FIBA departments. We support them with their traveling costs for the annual meetings of these commissioners, and that is a minimum gesture on our part in appreciation of their work. On behalf of the Central Bureau and the Executive Committee, we would like to say we're very happy in which we have operated under our new statutes. The Executive Committee meets every 3 months on average, so that we can assess all these projects and their headway they have made. And we follow the strategy of FIBA on the basis of the decisions taken. The MBA, our great partner, and also the Players Commission in helping our organization is some early steps that we're taking so that we can show our commitment to our members. We are with open arms. We are welcoming so that we can show that we want to strike a good balance here, and we want to make sure that there is good contact at all levels, from the top to the bottom of the basketball pyramid. This is the main body of FIBA, and it is the assembly of all our members. Our decision to contribute to your participation at the Congress is a clear indication that we want to interact with you more frequently. And for the first time, we want to take your participation to another level. We are doing this by having workshop sessions during Congress. We're convinced that after these 3 days with many ideas, with great passion for the sport, that we will see that the idea of a mid-term Congress has been one of the best decisions that we have taken at the Istanbul and Seville Congresses, where One FIBA was born. Finally, I would like to confirm my personal commitment and the commitment of Patrick Baumann and of our Treasurer Ingo Weiss, and the commitment of all of us on the Central Committee and on the Executive, that we shall continue to work at your side to make basketball the biggest sporting community in the world. Thank you.
Bueno, como fin de mi
Now, just to finish off the opening over this session, I just wanted to show you a video of the House of Basketball, which is your house, the House of Basketball in Nîmes.
It was, I'd say, emotional, because this is, the foundation stone of what will become a very important building for FIBA. And I think that FIBA is continuing to do a very good job for the governance of its sport.
Quand on est venu ici en 2010 et qu'ils ont commencé à faire le trou, il était tellement immense que moi j'avais dit au trésorier, mais tu es fou. Regarde-moi ce truc-là, mais on n'a pas besoin de ça, on est que 40 employés, on était 40 à peu près, 40, 42, quelque chose comme ça. Elle dit, non, quand tu construis pour les 30 à 50 ans à venir. Et moi, j'ai toujours pensé que c'était de la folie. Hein. C'est 120 places de travail. À l'époque, je ne voyais pas vraiment où est-ce qu'on allait. Ça allait nous prendre, je ne sais pas moi, 30 ans pour arriver à 120.
Realmente, bueno, empezamos a trabajar, ya prácticamente estaban las obras hechas, permanentemente uno venía, ¿no? Pero la emoción que sentimos todo el día de la inauguración fue algo increíble, a lo mejor no lo podemos contar en palabras, ¿no? Un día de mucho calor, esplendoroso, pero todo el mundo contento porque, bueno, era nuestra casa. Y la verdad que uno veía la alegría de toda la gente, vino muchísimas federaciones, muchísima gente, fue un día extraordinario para la Federación Internacional de Básquet. Bueno, la verdad que es tener un edificio, su propia casa, como decimos nosotros, la casa del básquet o la casa de todas nuestras federaciones, es un orgullo. Además, sabemos bien que fue uno de los grandes objetivos que el presidente Manini lanzó en el 2010.
C'est vrai qu'on aime bien que quand les gens arrivent, qu'ils voient un panier. C'est quand même un peu, c'est ce qu'on a mis. On ne peut pas que des ballons dehors. Donc le panier, c'est quelque chose d'extraordinaire. Puis il y a des écoliers qui viennent très régulièrement jouer. Et ça commence comme ça. Les gens trouvent un panier, ils viennent, ils jouent. Et puis c'est comme ça que tout le monde entre nous a commencé à jouer au basket.
Permanentemente, como dije recién, hay gente que viene a visitarnos. También a través de la fundación. Tenemos una posibilidad con el FIBA Open de 2 días que tenemos siempre a mitad del mes de junio, que le damos la posibilidad de a toda la gente de la región venir a visitarnos, los acompañamos para que hagan visita. Y bueno, y también uno, por supuesto, a mí como presidente me viene a ver gente y obviamente yo orgulloso lo hablo a la gente de la fundación, a Luisito para que lo acompañe a todos, y la verdad que la satisfacción es la despedida, ¿no? Felicitaciones, esto es extraordinario y eso por supuesto que nos llena de orgullo.
On a tellement de matériel de l'histoire du basket, entre les livres, la librairie qui est là, entre ceux qui se trouvent dans ces enceintes pour les championnats du monde, pour les équipements, pour les maillots des joueurs ou du salon d'honneur, c'est quelque chose qui quand même, c'est important pour nous. Je crois que tous les matins quand on rentre, c'est très bien de pouvoir passer d'abord par l'histoire avant d'aller créer le futur. Donc c'est quelque chose qui est extrêmement important. Et en plus, c'est ouvert. Et si les gens ont envie de connaître un peu le basket, c'est une excellente salle d'exposition. Le bâtiment, il est bien, c'est sa structure, la structure du basket, on la voit bien. Maintenant, il faut lui donner un fil rouge. Et le fil rouge, c'est le basket, évidemment. Il y a pas, tout en essayant de ne pas exagérer non plus. Alors, on se retrouve effectivement avec des détails assez curieux, mais qui ont tous trait au basket. Alors bon, après, en haut, quand on mange, on trouve à la bouteille FIBA, comme si on avait de l'eau nous-mêmes. Le plateau, lui aussi, c'est un terrain de basket, en fait, en orange. Même le desk, il est fait avec cette espèce de cuir. Les ballons sont partout. C'est notre âme, finalement. Donc, et ça, c'est le fil rouge que Roy nous a mis en place. Et être un peu dans nos murs, c'est un peu dire bon, bah, finalement on est mûr, on s'assied, hein, finalement, comme on dit en anglais, on settle down et on dit voilà, ça nous a pris 85 ans, mais bon, enfin bref, le temps dans une institution, c'est différent que dans notre propre temps, dans notre vie personnelle, mais c'est une très bonne chose d'être finalement propriétaire, et puis ça démontre quand même que le basket est devenu extrêmement populaire et global, et puis qu'on a la chance de pouvoir avoir nos bureaux. C'est pas donné à tout le monde, donc c'est quelque chose d'extraordinaire.
La cantidad de salas que hicimos nos permiten desarrollar muchas reuniones en forma paralela, pero también nos da la posibilidad con el Hall of Fame, con el museo que tenemos, enorgullecernos cada vez más, ¿no? Porque realmente todo el mundo queda maravillado de las cosas que tenemos y bueno, y por supuesto cada vez está mejor y seguramente en pocos años más vamos a llegar al éxito total que uno pensaba de nuestra hábitat, de nuestra casa del básquetbol, la casa de todo el mundo y la casa de todas las federaciones que tenemos. Bueno, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. As you can see, this is the pride of us all. And for those of you who don't know the building, please come along. We will welcome you with open arms. All the national federations are welcome. Now we're going to move on to the next item of the agenda, which is item 4. I'm going to ask our General Secretary to present his report on activity over the last report. Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone, honorable guests and dear friends and family members of the basketball of our sport. This is a particular moment. It's probably, as one would say, the main course of somehow this Congress, in a sense that it is about taking stock of what we've done so far since we last met. As the President has said, this is the first time that we have a midterm Congress. It was one of the changes that we approved 3 years ago at the Extraordinary Assembly in Istanbul, and then at the Ordinary Assembly in Sevilla during the World Cup in 2014. I'd like to thank also our friend Carl Ching, Dr. Carl Ching, for being a gracious host here together with his people and the Hong Kong Basketball Association. Now, it is about checking whether we are on the path that we have decided to set course on 3 years ago. But in fact, it is more than 3 years ago. Just trying to figure out whether the slides work. I was told I have to press on the green button and it turns. Am I correct? Trying, but it's not turning. Yes, it is. Now, the path, the course that we have taken is described to some extent in the book that you have received. It is quite an extensive book, so I hope you will find a lot of interesting information. I'm going to try to extract bits and pieces here and there to try to give you a picture of what has been done. But, and sometimes refer maybe to this or that page as well to make it simpler and clearer for you. The path we've set started back in 2010. That house that you see there, or sort of house, the house of basketball, we set it up during the presidency of Mr. Ivo Mainini. We worked on it when Bob was president, and then we were able to implement that strategy 2010-2020 with Ivo Mainini. Then in 2014, when Horatio became president, we exchanged one of the pillars, which was at the time the House of Basketball, because we were fortunate enough, as you've seen, to manage to have that house. In 2013, we inaugurated it, and we were able to use the space, and it is now there. So we exchanged that with another pillar which we felt was now coming, which is the development of national federation. So the four pillars on which we are working now, since back then, 2014, are the national federations, 1, the new calendar and system of competition, 2, the 3-on-3 basketball, and still, throughout all the three, the changes in the governance. They permeate all pillars, but also all the structure. The ultimate goal is to become the most popular sports community. Maybe we won't become the richest sports community. For that, we have some friends with another sort of ball, and they kick it around. That might have more people in stadiums and things like this. But I think we can have more people than them bouncing the ball across the globe. And I really believe that that's our target, and we can achieve that, and we are on a good way in that direction. So that's the goal we set out back then, 2010. We have changed a lot of things, especially over the last 3 years. We understand for some it might go too fast, for others it might go too slow. But we have done a lot of changes, and it's time for us to consolidate those, and probably then by the time we have the Congress in 2019, set course for the next 10 years, 2020, 2030, where new pillars and new ideas will have to be agreed upon, discussed, and then devote our time to those. The first pillar is about, is it I am the problem or the microphone is the problem? Don't shoot. The first pillar is about the national federations. It is something very dear to our president, Horatio, Mr. Muratore, and it's the one where I said that we've exchanged it with, from the House of Basketball into the development of national federations. Why? Because as much as we build the house from the top down, trying to make sure that in FIBA we're well organized, that we have the financing to support everyone, that we then organize the zones, and that we have the finances to support them, it is not a house if the foundation is as strong as the roof. If the roof is stronger or heavier, it collapses without strong foundations. And the next stage for us is to try, therefore, to work with the national federations, closely with them, to make them as strong, if not stronger, than the roof. At the end of the day, making sure that the whole family of basketball is strong. For that, a number of activities have taken place over the last 2 years. You will have, in one of the workshops, more detailed information on that. But for the first time ever, over many, many years, maybe back at the time it was the privilege of the Secretary Generals of the zones to make sure that they travel around every single one of their countries. And I remember that some of them still haven't visited all of their countries in their continents. But we have had a chance over the last 2 years to visit 180 countries, to have reports on every single one of them, and currently we're preparing tailored measures on how to help each and every one of them to go and to become better and to move forward in their own development of basketball in their country. That is quite an achievement, and I'd like to thank the staff, the regional directors, everyone, those that have participated in that. So it is now, this year is about making sure that we understand what those 180 reports mean, and the next stage will be to try to deliver a solution or help you find your own solution. It's not going to be, as the President said, sending a check. Hopefully one day we will be able to do that too. But right now it is about improving the skills of the people on the ground, making sure that there is stability in the leadership of every single country, and making sure that your program is tailored in a way that you can achieve the maximum out of your own local conditions. Then, as one FIBA, we distribute the roles between what we can do from the House of Basketball that you've seen earlier and what the House of Basketball in each continent can do for you on the ground. And you will see later on during the workshop how these two roles will interact for your benefit in each and every one of the countries. Now, of course, we're probably not gonna bring anything new to a country like the United States. We're not gonna teach the NBA or USA Basketball how to do their job, but we certainly may be able to help here and there, how, for example, they could work with the youth and the NCAA. On the other hand, probably we can help other countries that have more difficulties, and I will touch upon some of those later on, like Mexico and Brazil, where we are, as an example, working very hard with them to change and to help them improve the governance. We have the ability to bring tools, skills, and advice to them. It's then up to you to take it and to implement it, and up to us to try to give you the tools that you need for that. The second pillar, which affects everybody in one way or another, or at least almost 75% of our membership, is the competition system and the calendar. It's a new era. Now, in one continent, they have seen this. It was in the 90s. In Europe, we played in the same principle that we're going to play as of this November with Windows, national team coming up. Then, situation has changed, some difficulties with the professional leagues, and we changed and we moved away. Now, the big change in this system is that this will apply worldwide. Every single country will play, every single country that can qualify will now play in a system over 18 months to try to qualify for the World Cup or try to qualify for the Continental Championship. So on a regular basis, most of the countries, more than 150, will in fact find themselves having to organize games at home with their authorities, with their fans, with their media, with their teams on a regular basis. Your national team is coming home. That's not simple when you haven't done this for a long time. If you have not organized an Afrobasket yourself or a Eurobasket yourself, that's not simple. If suddenly you're required to host a national team and trying to qualify directly to the World Cup in 2019. It's not simple because you need to have an organization behind. You cannot just simply give this to somebody else to do. It's yours. This national team is yours, belongs to your country, and you have to work hard to make that moment successful. And it's going to repeat and repeat. Every 4 months, you will face somebody else. You'll travel somewhere, and then someone comes back to your country. And it is an incredible opportunity for every single national federation to adjust its structure, to improve its structure, to work with the public authorities, to work with the media, to work with your commercial partners, so that you can create a movement that will be rolling on and allowing you to somehow build on it. Now, of course, not every country is at the same level, and that's why you'll be playing at two different levels, those that have a chance to qualify straight for the World Cup, and those that have a chance to qualify for the Continental Championships in 21, and then from there, if they achieve good results, for the World Cup in 23. But there is space for everybody to play. It's open to everyone. The calendar that you see here is the calendar that you have in that booklet that I mentioned before. It is on page 24 and 25, probably a little difficult to read from there on that big screen, but it really has the core and the essence of everything in it. And I'd like to thank all the continents who have warmly embraced the idea, although we understand it's going to be a challenging one to implement, but they've embraced it. And I would like to thank all the regional directors for the work and the workshops they've done together with you individually in each of the continent. Now, to have a look at what it really means, I'd like to quickly show you a video.
Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries. Remember me for centuries. Reach out to the whole world knows my name, 'cause I was only born inside my dreams. So tear you down for me, as long as there's a light. My shadow's over you, 'cause I am the opposite of amnesia. And you're a cherry blossom, you're about to bloom. You look so pretty, but you're gone so soon. Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, will go down in history. Remember me for centuries. Remember me for centuries. We've been here forever, and here's the frozen fruit. I could scream forever. We are. Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries. Go down in history. Remember me for centuries.
So of course, we had a chance to see these every summer, one way or another, or every other summer. Now, we're going to have this celebration, this party, every November, February, June, September, November, February, June, September, and so on and so forth. So it's an opportunity to multiply the one party we had in the summer by 4, by 5, by a multifold in every single country that will participate. And if 150 countries do that, this is an incredible depth of basketball activities in a very regular period across the globe, not very dissimilar to what those kicking boys are doing on a regular basis. And I think that we have all the ability to generate the same attention on the digital media, on the television, and hopefully with the help of our friends who so brilliantly put together also this video of FIBA Media and FIBA Marketing to achieve and to fill the safe of our treasurer even more than it is today. Now the third pillar of the governance is about the new governance. That is a more dry matter. It's a little more difficult to understand and explain what it is about. It's really about a few things that I think are important to understand. Besides the practical changes that you may have witnessed here or there in the relationship between the headquarters, the regional bodies, the zones, the boards, the executive that is sitting here or the whole board and so forth. It's about trying to become more focused, to make sure that on one hand, the national federations are members of FIBA first and foremost, and only. This is what it is. It's one FIBA. We are members of one organization, the same. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter the size of your country. It is the same family, and every single one of us counts as much as the bigger one or the smaller one. Then it is about becoming more flexible. It is about, the president has said, taking out a little bit the politics, which permeates a lot of the discussions, and that's normal. In a big family, this happens, and this is useful. But it is about implementing a vision, but also about adapting it to the ever-changing landscape around the globe. Our IOC Vice President said it's changing very fast. The Agenda 2020 of the IOC is just one example, but the Agenda 2020, to some extent, 2 years after having been approved, is already, in some parts, outdated. Not in a bad sense, but in the fact that things have changed so fast over the last 24 months that currently we're already discussing 2 bids for Olympic Games at the same time. Not dissimilar to what we have been thinking or other international federations have been thinking. But this flexibility also makes us stronger, because when we can adapt to what happens out there, we are faster in the way we have constructed and built ourselves. And finally, it's about one very important principle. We either change ourselves or we will be changed. There's not much choice. If we don't adjust, others will force us to adjust. And we see this on a daily basis, whether it's what our commercial partners are looking for, whether it is what the youth or the youngsters want from sport, whether it is what professional stakeholders within our community, the clubs, the leagues, and so want. If we don't adjust, they'll change us, they'll force us to change. So we do not have a choice. We need to address those issues and be faster and even more professional than they are if we want to be sustainable and function for the future. So the new governance, as you know, we've approved the chart on the right in Turkey during the extraordinary Congress in Istanbul, for which I'd like once again to thank the then president of the Turkish Federation, Mr. Turgay Demirel. It is, as I said, about making sure, as Mr. Muratore said, it's one FIBA, one family. But this is not about centralizing things. It's about making sure that core competencies are put where they have to be. It's about focusing on who can do best what, where. It's not about multiplying activities administratively so that we have 5 or 6 IT departments, finance departments. One is enough for the whole family. But that we have 5 or 6 very focused development offices with the regional directors being in charge directly on helping you deliver the first pillar, which is development of the national federation. It is about being inclusive. President Muratore has said so. It's about trying to figure out a way where all stakeholders participate in the decision-making process. That's difficult because we're used to do this 85 years in one way. And life is changing, people are changing, and the respect for authority is changing. And we need to show that we add value to all those that participate in our world. This is why the NBA is a key partner for us. This is why the NBA is sitting on this board. This is why athletes have to be listened to, because at the end of the day, we cannot just use or misuse them. They are the ones providing the show on a field of play. Without them, we would have nothing to do. And it is quite a pleasure to see that many of those or some of those very successful athletes are giving back by taking roles in the national federations or in the continental organizations. If you have seen who is sitting at the far end on this table, or 2 or 3 of those that are here in the room and have been appointed to the central board, their presence will add value, on one hand, to make sure that we are taking care of the athletes, that they bring us their input, that they tell us what we have to adjust or do better, but also it shows that you can be an officer in a federation or an international federation even when you have been a very successful and probably also very wealthy person because of your success on the field of play. And that certainly is very exciting to have them on board. And finally, it's about good governance. We read a lot about other sports. Fortunately, we don't read too much about our own sports in the media. We never know. Something may pop up, whether it's a doping case, whether it's some other things. So we have to be extremely careful how we organize ourselves, how we take decisions, how we run our finances, how our statutes, not just ours, but also your statutes are built so that there is nobody to complain about it, that can complain about it, that you don't have a situation which we had in the past where a president elects the secretary general and the secretary general elects the president, and this for 20 years in a country. Those are not proper models of good governance, or where the accounts are not audited by somebody else, but we don't know exactly how they're put together. There are very simple little things, but governance is an extremely important piece of what we need to do, because whatever we do wrong, even if it's not by calculation, even if it's just unwillingly or unintentionally, it damages our image. And to administer all this, we have taken a few decisions back in 2014, 2015. One was that all the regional offices or the zones become subsidiaries. That was in the chart on the page before. And within that, we've tried to reorganize the location of the offices so that we have more soldiers on the ground to help develop national federations. So as a fact, for example, the Asian offices were moved from Kuala Lumpur to Lebanon to accompany also, on one hand, the Secretary General, but also to take care of that region in particular in a more direct way. That is an important basketball region for us. But given that it moved there, we've also decided that we open a development office in Singapore, which is coordinated by both Asia and Oceania, so that the Southeast Asian friends have a chance to develop basketball at every level at the same time. We have, together with our African friends, defined that rather than having two headquarters historically in Cairo and then practically in Ivory Coast, that we focus on Ivory Coast because that's where the core people are, and that we will probably in the future see how other development offices can be kept and built in that very large and big continent, because we need, once again, to be as close as possible to you, our national federations. The same is valid for the future in the Americas, where we are reorganizing the office and we're trying to be as functional as possible, and potentially also we can have a few development offices in that particular zone. Same happens in Europe, between an office where one is 500 kilometers from the other. We felt that having two offices in two different places does not make sense, especially also given that the German legislation does not help develop our commercial activities in a proper way, given restriction that it puts on not-for-profit associations. So this footprint is what this board has approved and the executive committee has worked on, obviously based on work that was done between 2010 and 2014. The last pillar, the new kid on the block, but not anymore that new, as it's now been 10 years that we have been working on it, is 3-on-3. If we work, on one hand, how we organize ourselves as good as possible, as efficient as possible. Second, we try to organize the national team competitions, or the elite, which is the image, your brand, your countries around. We have to do a work also at the grassroots level. At the grassroots level and at the level where today's society is going, urban sports, youth-oriented, because there, if we don't develop that, we will have difficulty in having the next generation of basketball players. We cannot pump unlimited way our clubs to create talents, because there are talents out there that are not willing to play in club structures. And we need to embrace them, and there are many of them. And this is one of the reasons why we have been pushing a lot for the development of 3-on-3. Today we have created a worldwide sports community, and then with a network of hundreds of organizers, thousands of tournaments, and millions of players that are out there, that are your players, wherever they are domiciled and wherever they play tournaments. Today, 3-on-3, it's since 2010 officially in the Youth Olympic Games. I still remember the first day when we proposed this to the then president of the FIBA Youth Commission, Ingo Weiss. He looked at us a little bit to say, are you crazy or what? But I think that 10 years later, after the first experience, then 7 years ago in Singapore, and then in 2014 in Nanjing, we are at a stage where we can surely say that everybody has a chance to be successful in 3-on-3. Because you need less infrastructure, you need less people. You need to organize it different. You don't have to organize it yourself. You can take advantage of people that are out there. Control it, supervise it, but you can take advantage of others investing into it. And it is also a way to go back to the point of inclusiveness. If people are doing basketball in your country, but not exactly in a way, in your structured way, it is also time for us to embrace them and give them a tool that allows them to be part of the basketball family. So we have a lot of examples from countries that you would not think that could be successful in basketball at the international level. We've listed a few here that have shown that by working hard on this discipline can achieve success pretty fast. Now today, obviously, we are in a move for trying to become also Olympic, because if we are Olympic, we can obviously also benefit from financial support coming from all the Olympic movement pillar, the National Olympic Committees, and then obviously from the authorities, because at the end of the day, it's an opportunity to win one medal more. It's not anymore just 6 medals at the Olympic Games, it's about 12 medals at the Olympic Games. 3 for men, 3 for women, and 3 for 3-on-3, and again 3 for 3-on-3 in girls or in women. So it's 12 medals. In theory, 12 countries can win an Olympic medal. And Olympic medals in most of the countries are the reference for investment by National Olympic Committee and sports authorities. And I can tell you, believe me, it's easier to try to be up there now. In a few years, if you didn't start now, you will have a challenge to reach the top level in 3-on-3. But you cannot reach the top level in 3-on-3 if you don't work on it. It doesn't come out of it like this. You cannot just take 4 players from your male team. Ask Garbajosa, who is somewhere here around. He tried to play 3-on-3 in Athens at the World Championship. He got kicked out with his buddies from the national team in the preliminaries. He played everything. So don't try that. You need to really work on it. It's a different set of skills. It's a different sport. It's a different discipline. And this is a point I also want to make. We are basketball, but now we have 2 disciplines. One is our regular 5-on-5, which we know by heart. 100 years it's there. We know how to do it, 3-on-3 is different. 3-on-3 needs to be organized different in your country. You need to take separate decisions. You cannot apply the same rules of it. And you need to embrace a different generation of people and different people out there. How you make them part of your family, how you license them are technical details, but it's important. Can be revenue generating, but at the end of the day, you will be multiplying the members of your federation by a multifold if you manage to find the key to unlock the success of it. And to show you what it is and to show you what we presented to the IOC in February, and we are waiting a decision in July for Tokyo 2020, let me show you this video.
We can play anywhere. We can play on top of a building, we can play on the beach, we can play in the park.
3x3 here is a resounding success. You can see the reaction of the public. Everybody is excited. The players like it very much, and it's a great atmosphere here.
We had no clue how quick these games are, how fast-paced they are. You know, take it out of the net and you just go, 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 go. Basically a 10-minute sprint.
3-on-3 played in this fashion is incredibly exciting. Look at this terrific crowd. It's a very intimate setting. You're right up on the court. The games are short, highly competitive. I just think it's fantastic. Just came from Rio, and I attended many beach volleyball games, and I think in the same way that beach volleyball has created an incredibly exciting, energetic venue targeted at young people, I think we could do the same thing with 3-on-3.
It looks like a very exciting game. It will be fun to watch the game going to Olympics. I would buy tickets for it.
So this concludes the first part on the 4 pillars. Once again, National Federation, the new competition system, the one governance, and the 3-on-3. That's a lot of things to already digest, and to do that in a better mood and a better way after having been seated here now for the last 1.5 hours, we kind of invite you for a coffee break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I think obviously the best part of every Congress is exactly these. It's the coffee breaks. It's the opportunity to see friends again that you haven't seen for years, some cases. And I think this is what it is about being part of one family. In the meantime, I've been able to resolve this issue here. You see, I can use them for other purposes now. It works, and I hope you can hear me pretty fine. I'll move to, we went through the vision, the four main action plans and that we have put in place. As I told you, 2010, it started. We're now 17. It was a plan 2010-2020. And of course, at the end, I'll get quickly back on it as we move on to the next decade that will come. In the meantime now, however, I'll move to partially maybe a little bit more boring part of an activity report is really the activities itself, what has happened. It is some things you know. All of you live in your country, but also in your continent, so you are very, very familiar with what has happened in that area. But obviously, things happen across all over the world, and we do have competitions. 2014, when we had the last Congress in Sevilla, we were in Spain, and I take advantage of starting by thanking the Spanish Basketball Federation and its president, Mr. José Luis Sáez, for delivering an outstanding World Cup. Of course, also hosting us in a great way, and making sure that we felt at home in Spain, that we felt at home in Sevilla, where we had our Congress, where we had a lovely evening outdoor with fantastic performance, if you may remember. And we had a great event as well in that particular event. And I think the thing that struck all of us, what struck us most, was that, of course, when you host an event, you have a lot of ambition to be successful as a host nation. Now, success, for many of you that host events, is about success of your own national team. And I think that that's not all. It's about making sure that you have success as an event, that your guests feel that there was a success. And I think that the Spanish Federation and Mr. Sáez have excelled in making sure that we felt at home, and that despite their, let's say, maybe a little bit frustrating performance on the court, they've continued to deliver a wonderful World Cup back there and made sure that we went home with great memories. And I'd like to thank them for that. We moved on there were a lot of stories in there, and certainly, you know, everybody remembers what happened up in Bilbao when the Finns took over Bilbao for a week, and it was no longer Spanish or Spanish country, it was a Finnish country in that particular moment. And I think that's exactly what we'd like to see elsewhere. We'd like to make sure that you can bring your spectators, your fans, along with your team wherever you go, so that you fill venues, that your team is not playing just with 10 or 12 players, it's playing with 11 or 13 players, because those spectators can make a big difference for the motivation of your people on the ground. And besides the fact that when they go home, they have a lot of memories to share with the family and with the friends. We went to Turkey, Women's World Championship in 2014, and I'd like to thank the president, Mr. Demirel, who was president of the federation, for hosting it. And I'm touching only the big ones because those obviously are the world events. We do have a number of youth events throughout every year, but certainly most memorable is the Rio Games of last year, the Olympic Games. Our friends in Brazil have had their shares of difficulties to organize the games in a particular environment with an institutional crisis, an economic crisis, but eventually they delivered the games, and the games were a big success for basketball, both the men and the women's tournament. We enjoyed great success at those games. All the other things that you hear around, obviously, and that you read about, what is happening to venues there, it's not simple. It's also not simple to hear and read what happens to the Brazilian Basketball Federation, but it's one of those things that either you change or you're going to be changed. And I think that's a clear example of things that probably we should try to avoid to do in order not to face the difficulties that the Brazilian Federation is facing today. We are moving now to the next end of this cycle already. I mean, November we start, and you're going to be playing 80 of your countries. You will be going to, or you will be in Guangzhou just in a few days for the draw. So you'll suddenly know who you're going to be facing in November and then in February and so forth. And that journey starts, a new one for the basketball family, as I had a chance to explain you before. And it will end in China. And unfortunately, Dr. Zai-Ching Yu now left us, but I still remember how frustrated he was when he lost the bid to Spain, and how upset the Chinese fans and family was when they lost their first attempt at winning the bid for the World Cup in 2014. But nonetheless, they persevered and they came back. And in 2015 in Kuala Lumpur, we had a chance to have a fantastic presentation from the Chinese Basketball Association and from the Philippines. Then finally, the choice ended up for our friends in China. And I'd like to congratulate Yao Ming, who was part of that presentation at the time, but not yet president of the CBA. Maybe he did not know that he would be a few years later president of the CBA. So congratulations for an astounding career also now in those circles. And we look forward to come to China in 2019. And in 2018, however, a year before, we will have a chance to go back to Spain for the Women's World Cup, and most likely in the wonderful island of Tenerife. At the end of this cycle, we are already again in an Olympic cycle. It is a little bit of an Asian time right now, in the sense that a lot of investments are going on in sports in this particular area of the globe. As you heard from the president of the Olympic Committee, Hong Kong is going to build fantastic sports facilities similar to those that are currently in Singapore. China will host our World Cup. Tokyo will host the Olympic Games in 2020. And with a little bit of luck and obviously a lot of hard work from all of you, those that participate in 3-on-3, and with a pinch of salt, I hope that the IOC will take also a great decision for us in terms of what happens with the 3-on-3 in Tokyo. But national teams are important. They are what we are. It's really the soul of what we do. It's the end result of what we do when we are in going out there with our flag and with our brand, our country here. It's the key. But we can't do this without thinking of all that happens below and what happens on an even more intense way on a week-by-week basis on most of the national federations level in the national competitions, but then also in the international competition. And the club business is a difficult one to manage. It's one part of our stakeholders family that is in some places moving fast forward, professionalizing itself, becoming more and more commercial, and therefore difficult to keep sometimes in this pyramid of family where you try to have the national team at the top and you get the best players from the clubs to reach that. But we do not have much choice than to embrace them and work with them and make sure that they are part of this family. They are the base of what happens later with the national teams. And the promotion of international club competition is therefore a key element in what our regional offices are doing on a daily basis during the season. It is about trying to make sure that this elevator between a domestic championship through an international club competition to the national team, and then hopefully with national teams somewhere up to World Cups and Olympic Games, that this elevator is not disrupted by a lack of electricity or by some other things, but that it is smooth, and that somehow we can make sure that this elevator functions harmoniously within the basketball family. That's one of the reasons why also we made a lot of emphasis back in 2014 trying to incorporate the NBA into our environment, but at the same time we have been pushing all our continental organizations to do the same with the organizations that may be or exist or come into existence in their different continents. Now we know that in Europe there's a little bit of a particular environment with the EuroLeague, who has been very successful over the last 15 years in building up a product, but is equally disrupting a little bit the work that all the national federations and the national leagues are doing, which is one of the reasons why this board has decided to help our European friends and invest into a basketball Champions League, which has just finished a week ago its first season in an extremely successful way. And we'll continue to do that. And in fact, this basketball Champions League is about protecting domestic leagues. It's about protecting your national teams. It's a heavy investment for the FIBA family, and I'm very grateful for all the continents that support that we invest in Europe, which is already a mature country, even further funds to make sure that this happens. But this is not where we want to stop. We want to continue and develop it elsewhere. We think that the Asia Pacific is the next step for a basketball championship. We think that the Liga de las Americas, who's in place and is difficult to organize given the circumstances, will be the next basketball Champions League. And one day, I think we will get to where we want, which is a World Club Championship together with our friends from the NBA, in any case with the NBDL in particular. I think that we have a lot of opportunity to make that a reality within the next couple of cycles. In terms of competitions, nothing works really without, as I said, a few other key stakeholders. Just trying to move on. And I'd like to address a couple of them here. Of course, two particularly important key stakeholders in our family are the IOC on one hand. We are part of the Olympic family. We are proud members of the Olympic family since 1936. When we first entered the Olympics, we were founded in 1932, so it's been quite a successful, let's say, start of the existence of FIBA. We since have grown. But I think that we are now in 2017, and it's quite fitting that basically it's 30 years today that the predecessor of Adam Silver, who is on that picture, and one of the predecessors of Dr. Thomas Bach, Juan Antonio Samaranch, as well as our good friend and Dr. Stankovic, have made sure in '87 that somehow the NBA will participate in FIBA competitions, and then in '92, therefore 25 years ago, in the first Olympic Games in Barcelona. That has been a particular moment. So 92, 2017, for those that have had a chance, and somebody was telling me this during the break, of being part of this Congress for many, many editions, the world of basketball has changed, and it has changed dramatically. And I know sometimes the relationship with NBA, or sometimes your relationship with managers of NBA clubs, when they don't want to release the player or they're making some people, you feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I think that overall, the NBA is our best asset that we have in our family. It is the most powerful league that promotes basketball across the globe. There is no other league that does that so well as the NBA. And that's not because Mark is sitting there. It's because we have it. It's in our house. It's not in football. It's not somewhere else. It's not the NHL. We are much, much better. And this is why I'm absolutely convinced that at the end of the day, there are going to be more people bouncing the ball than kicking it. And that is certainly, for me, one of the most best alliances that you can have in the world of sport, what we have between the NBA and FIBA. And if you read recently how our good friends from the NHL are not going to Pyongyang for the Pyeongchang, whichever one it is, South Korea, to be sure, for the Winter Olympic Games, our friends from the NBA are participating without discussions internationally in Olympic Games and World Championships. Yes, we have to be sure that the owners are happy. It's the same in every one of your country as well. We have to be sure that clubs are respected for what they invest into their efforts in athletes. We have to be sure that the athletes, the wear and tear of their athletes, that we are considerate in how we play our competition system, that's how we put our calendar, which is also one of the reasons why this calendar, which we have worked through since 2010 with Yvon and then with Horacio, we've been working very closely with the NBA to make sure that we can focus their attention to the key moments in the life of international basketball. Yes, they will not play during the windows. Who knows? One day the USA might have difficulties in qualifying. They might have to rethink that. But for the time being, our job is to make sure that we develop our sport, we develop new talents, and that when it comes to that particular moment where we get to those final rounds, the NBA is our strongest ally and participates in it. And I think that's why the NBA is one of our key partners in it. Not easy at times, but it's key, and they're friends. And I'd like to make that very clear and sure that everybody understands that. The second partner is the IOC. Now we are one family of Olympic sports. There's a lot of them, 28 at the Summer Olympics and 7 in the winter. And we abide by the principles of what the IOC stands for, the rings. That's a special moment. It's not about money going to the Olympic Games. Certainly it's not about money for the athletes to go to the Olympic Games. And when David Stern came out with the idea in London that why don't we go with under 19 like football does, the first one to come out was Kobe Bryant the next day. So forget it, I'm going to the Olympic Games. It's special. To be at the Olympics is just a very special moment. And there is nothing that compares to being world champion or to being an Olympic champion. So we need to cherish it. Now our focus is the World Cup. That's what we control. That's what we want to become bigger, where we want to go and challenge somebody else. But the Olympics still remains the cherry on the cake, which has different values. And those values we share as a sports family. Those values we share on a day-to-day basis when we work on the ground with our friends from other sports, when you sit in your Olympic committees with other friends and you discuss the domestic policy of sport in your country. In this context, Agenda 2020 that Dr. Zai-Ching-Yu has been referring to is an extremely important one. It's not different from what we have done. We need to adjust, adapt ourselves, otherwise somebody else will do that for you. And Agenda 2020 is about that. It's about changing processes, changing value, not the values, but changing processes, changing how we do business in the Olympic environment. And that the IOC has done as well, as much as we have done our own thinking and working hard on strategy, on vision, and in changing ourselves. A second point that is important within the work of the IOC is the fight against doping. I like to touch that also. It's important also for us. We are fortunate we're a team sport. Team sports are less affected by doping than are probably other sports. That doesn't mean we should be less vigilant about anti-doping. We need to fight it, and we need to make sure that there is no issue that comes up anywhere across the globe or in every country. So unfortunately, we have to invest in it. We have to do doping controls. We have to educate the youngsters. We have to educate the coaches. We have to educate the doctors that are around the teams that to taking dietary supplements is maybe not the best. And you have to be very careful what you take. We have to be very careful what the player takes when he is sick or ill, so that he does not by accident is being caught in a doping violation and is out for the next 4 years. Some examples are sitting in the room, or some of you have had to live through those processes. Now the sanctions are harsher and harsher. And when you get caught, it's very hard to get back on a field of play. And once you get back on a field of play, just read what the other tennis players are saying about Maria Sharapova. I don't think it's fair. She paid for what she did. But the impression that is around is going to be negative, and it's keeping there, and it's affecting not just the one athlete, it's affecting the sport itself. So I think that it's worthwhile keeping that fight in doping. And the third point within the IOC Olympic environment is the relationship with your national Olympic committees. I think that's an important piece of how we can grow. One is how you work with your public authorities, how they can help you. I think that the new competition system will help that. But at the same time, the national Olympic committees have also bits and pieces for you where you can draw resources and expertise and experience. We're pretty strong as a sport in drawing resources through the Olympic solidarity programs. So Olympic committees are kind of motivated in supporting basketball programs. I'm sure we can do even more in that area. Now, besides the IOC and the NBA, we have a lot of other stakeholders that are part of our family. We have the International Federation of Deaf Basketball that we support. We obviously have the World Association of Basketball Coaches and so forth, but we do also have the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation, and the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation is an entity that is autonomous, separate, but we are supporting since many years, and who has recently decided to locate its activities and its core activities and its headquarters in our House of Basketball in Geneva, in Switzerland. So our relationship with them is getting closer and closer. They are the top sport at the Paralympic Games. We should not forget that. And in some countries, you may have the opportunity, a chance, or a challenge, depends, of working with the wheelchair basketball community. Some countries, they are separate. In some countries, you govern them. And there are in others a mixture of relationships. What I can say is that it is also our role to help and take care of them. It's not maybe an obligation in terms of legal aspects in your different countries, but if there's a way to help, if there's a way to bring that sport also inside and embrace it even more, then please do so and help them. To do that, and on behalf of the president of the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation, I'd like to show you a short video on their sport. Okay.
The Wheelchair Basketball World Championships are coming to Hamburg.
Okay.
This is big. Hamburg 2018. I'm excited. Are you?
Just a clin d'oeil, as they say, on our friends from Wheelchair. We have now 5 regional offices that are fully functional, 1 FIBA staff. It's about 150 people working as one group. And I'd like to thank here in particular the regional directors or those former secretary generals of the zones for the efforts that they've done. They're sitting down there and they've done an incredible job in making sure that the events at the continental level, that the services that they provide to their zone boards and to FIBA in general are being very successful. Africa, Dr. Alphonse Billet, the Americas, Mr. Alberto Garcia, who has also decided to retire, and we thank him for his lifetime achievements and efforts in that area. Mr. Hagop Kajirian from Asia, Kamil Novak in Europe, and David Krok in Oceania. They are, all 5 of them, the engine of making sure that whatever we decide at this board somehow is implemented at the regional level. And they've done a fantastic job so far, and I hope you agree with me on that as well. Now, when you do all this work, of course, you do need a small detail thing, which is kind of not very important, certainly, but it's some resources, some money, and that doesn't come along. You need to have the right partner to do that. And as I told you before, the new era is about unlocking the potential of the national teams and trying to make you as national federations work a little bit in a different way for the benefit of the basketball family globally. We have worked very hard since we decided in 2014 in the changes and in implementing the new competition system to find a way to be able to guarantee that we will achieve the results that we have done. This has not been possible alone. It has been, would not have been possible alone. We would have continued to grow, but certainly at a smaller rate. It's a pleasure to inform you that we have signed in 2016, with the approval of the board, long-term strategic partnerships with 2 particular entities and friends that have become friends in the meantime as well, which are Perform on one hand and In Front / Wanda on the other hand. Perform on the media side, and Infront and Wanda on the marketing side. And it's a pleasure here to welcome in this context the CEO of Infront and big boss of that particular company, Mr. Philip Blatter. Welcome. And from Perform, Jacopo Tonoli, who is the Chief Commercial Officer and who represents here the CEO, Simon Denier. It is a difficult job for them to be out there and selling on a day-to-day basis all the properties that they are managing, but I have to say that they have done a great job in a very short time for our sports. Now, you see here Jacopo. He did not have a beard back then. He's sitting here in the front, so if you want to talk to him, it's the beardy guy down here, which is the first one on the left of that picture. And they are operating from London together with our television team in Me, and they have a very extensive network with offices and resources across the globe in the digital sphere. You will hear more about that also during the workshop, but this partnership works and is fully operational since over 1 year. Infront is a leading marketing agent that has worked also with some of our good friends, federations here in this room. They are partners or owned by Wanda, which is obviously a very large conglomerate in China, the largest. And given our World Cup in China, it's a very fitting start of a relationship with that association, with our association with this entity. It's equally fully operational since October 2016, but as you well know, media sales, it's not easy, but certainly easier than marketing sales. Nonetheless, we are certain that also Philip and his team will take on this challenge and make us grow even more than what we have written on papers. The third partnership is a strategic partnership that we've also been working through some years now. It's with Nike, an iconic brand in the market and certainly the absolute global market leader in basketball. And as you can see, our President Horacio Muratore was extremely pleased to meet a couple friends at the last All-Star game of the NBA when we announced the partnership with Nike. In that context, I certainly also want to thank not just the whole broadcasters or the partners that have generally always participated with us, but in particular also Champion on one hand, who's been a very dedicated, long-time partner since the early stages of trying to do some marketing by ourselves, and then of Peak, who has joined us in the relationship on the markets with apparel and footwear. And some of you are also having Peak as a sponsor for your national team, so I certainly can only encourage you to continue that relationship with them. At the end, what we've achieved, and I think this is the most important part, is that we've been able to find two partners, strong and solid, that are committed for the next 15 years to work with us. That's a long time. You get the time to get married and live together and grow basketball to the next level. It's a way for us to not have to do everything alone, but to take advantage of their own network that they put at our disposal and resources. It's a way for us to guarantee financial stability for the next 15 years. We made a lot of changes. We took out one continental championship. We moved the World Cup by 1 year. We are investing a lot in development of national federations. This doesn't happen alone. We need resources. And these partnerships have guaranteed that we can deliver the One FIBA project and the new calendar. And finally, it allows us, therefore, to concentrate on sport and on development, which is what we do best. And we have been doing well so far to make basketball a global sport. So I would like to thank both Philip and Jacopo for getting married to us and for a long time, and pushing you to make sure that we enter into the profit share yesterday rather than tomorrow. so that we can unlock even further the potential of our great sport. Now, let me take 2 minutes for something very technical, a little bit more interesting probably and surprising. We have had the honor of being awarded by ICANN, which is some very specific official organization worldwide that distributes these famous .com, .tv, .switzerland, .whatever you want, and we have received the authorization, or let's say the ownership of the .basketball. We're one of the very few sports that has achieved it. Only rugby and ski are the other ones. And Gives is currently fighting to get .sport on behalf of the IOC. So this is something new, which will come up. So when you know the www.fiba.com or your own website or your own websites, whichever one you use, we will be able to provide you very soon, already this year, with the ability to actually use the .basketball as a glue to further the community of basketball around our sport. It's clear, specific, it defines us, and it belongs to us. And I think that certainly is great news, and Mr. Muratore will be certainly pleased to have his own website under www.muratore.basketball. Now, after having been so great in achieving a number of things, of course, sometimes you also spend, and it is important also for you, I think, to get a glimpse at how things have worked from a purely technical and financial way. There is an extensive report in the, or extensive at least to some extent, 3 or 4 pages in the activity report, which you can look a few details. I just want to highlight here a few things. Within this context of one FIBA, the whole financial approach has changed. We have a unified financial strategy, 1 chief financial officer, and 5 teams working under his direction in the 5 regional offices. And it is an integrated accounting system. Everybody uses the same. As I told you before, good governance, we need to make sure that everyone, every single organization which is somehow under the umbrella of FIBA is organized in the most irreproachable way and clear way and clean way. And we are successful, so successful that now for the very first time this year, and just as late as yesterday, the Central Board for the first time was able to approve consolidated financial statements for all the entities under this one FIBA. That's quite an achievement for every single continent to participate in this. And the strategy is simple. It is about keeping a balance, of course, between costs and revenues, create reserves so that we can function if something happens. We don't have a World Cup, we need to continue to function. Despite insurance or things like that, or others, or there is no continental championship. And finally, we need to try, in order exactly for this, to be liquid all the time, so that we can pay our commitments, pay the staff, and make sure that all your development programs can continue to subsist, even in a difficult moment which might come, and hopefully not too soon. And if you look quickly at the numbers, 2014 was a successful year because of the World Cup in Spain. 2015 was also a successful year despite the financial loss, because we've invested basically in the continent organizations in terms of their marketing and television rights. So it's a loss in the sense of investment into the continents. And 2016 has been more successful than we expected due to the success of the Olympic Games, the fact that the IOC, despite the difficulties in Brazil, was able to deliver their financial commitments to the international federations, and despite the fact that we have invested very substantially into the Basketball Champions League on one hand, and into development of the competition system of 2017 and plus after that. Now that means somehow that we do now have strong partnership guarantees with minimum revenues until 2033, as I told you before. We have a good cash position right now, but given that we have the changes over the next 2 to 3 years, we will be using it to invest in getting through that gap so that when we go into 2020 and 2021, we will be able to pick it up, get back to a 4-year cycle, and make sure that the reserves that we need for dire times will be there. So finally, although the next World Cup will be in 2019 and the Continentals will be held only every 4 years, today we can guarantee the level of budgets for every single continent thanks to these partnerships that I have mentioned before. And last but not least, we are all about national federations. We're about changes, we're about trying to figure how things happen, and the Central Board and the Executive Committee have had at times to work on issues that happen in the national federations. And I want to give you here a list for you to know what was worked on throughout the last couple of years. First of all, we have 2 new members, Kosovo on one hand and Great Britain. But at the same time, we somehow lose 3 members, and we will recognize that at the end of this Congress, England, Scotland, and Wales. It's quite a specific and unique fact, which came about due to the games in London, and with the hard work of a very good friend of us that has left us, unfortunately, prematurely. But we do now have a British Basketball Federation, and these 3 home nations have given up their membership for the benefit of a British program, which I think is quite incredible and worth remembering and rewarding. We've had 1 national federation has moved from Asia to Oceania, it's Timor-Leste. We had a few federations that you may remember were suspended. Japan, but they successfully implemented the work of a task force. They were able to merge 2 competing leagues that were in their country working for more than 10 years, one against the other. There was no way to making them work together, and we managed, through a task force and a suspension, to bring them together, and today there is 4 times as much revenues in that league than there was 1 year ago. There's a new federation, a new president, and a totally new board, and they are ready to race for medal for the Olympic Games in 2020. We have Mexico, who has done work, and we have lifted the suspension. We have lifted the suspension of Pakistan, and we have lifted the suspension of Russia. We have 2 countries where the situation remains critical for different reasons. Brazil, I mentioned. It's a matter of governance and of financial difficulties. The federation has unfortunately accumulated a lot of debts, and the new leadership that has just been voted in March needs to figure out how to resolve that. And the second is Kuwait, where unfortunately from the IOC side, the National Olympic Committee remains suspended, and as long as that is suspended, the Basketball Federation is suspended as well. And we will continue and recommend you also concur with this, that continues after. And we have finally, given the difficulties in the environment with clubs and leagues in Europe, gone through a process of compliance with the statutes to see whether these 3 countries, Germany, Russia, and Spain, are compliant with our statutes in terms of, do you really control basketball in your country, yes or no? And we are going through a process in that with an independent panel, and we will keep you informed about what will happen following that independent panel's review. These are the main topics. Now, of course, there's up and downs in every national federation. There's at times government interference in a federation. There's at times other sort of problems. Do not hesitate to let us know if we can, in one way or another, help you, making sure that you have an easier life in trying to promote and develop basketball, and you can create better relationship with all the stakeholders around you, of those people that you need in order to make basketball progress in your country. That is a long, but I hope not too boring overview of what we have done over the last 4 years, and 2 years, apologies. And I wanted just to conclude by reminding you again where we started. It is still about making basketball the most popular sports community. It is about having more people bouncing the ball than kicking it over time. We are competing with the other sports. We're part of the sports family, but it is about remaining sustainable and growing. we do have space to grow. We've made a lot of changes between 2010 and 2014. We're now consolidating those. We're trying to start with the things we've decided. So November is a start. The one governance is almost a start. The 3-on-3 will hopefully have the start in 2020 as an Olympic adventure, and so and so. And then we'll have to work for new pillars. One, most likely, as the President said, will be women's basketball. I think that when we talk 2019 at this Congress, we will address women's basketball. Not because it comes second to any of the other things. It just simply is a matter of prioritizing where we can work faster and harder. But it is an important piece because at the end of the day, it's the mothers that decide where the kids will go to play and do sports. And still, we do have, whenever we have a basketball game at the highest level, the spectators still is 50-50 men and 50% women. And the second point probably is youth. Youth, this mini basketball, how to translate the 3-on-3, at what level start. I think if we want to have the next generation of stars, whether it's in 5-on-5 or in 3-on-3, there will have to be more focus on youth as well. And that's probably going to be part of the new pillars for 2020, 2030. But that is another story to tell at the next Congress. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you for your patience of listening to me. I'd like to thank the President for his guidance and friendship. I'd like to thank the Central Board and the Executive Committee, with whom we can exchange in a very flexible way and on a very regular basis in order to drive those changes through. It's not simple in the implementation phase. Sometimes it's easy to have the idea. It's more difficult to implement, and we are in the middle of that. And I'd like to thank the staff, whether it is the staff that is in me, or whether it is the staff that is in every single one of the 5 continents that I mentioned earlier. Without them, we could not do anything. We could not do those presentations. We could not be here and having a great time and growing our game. But finally, I'd like to thank you, because you are the ones that are on a day-to-day faced with challenges, faced with people that are there and are creating problems. Others are solving them. And your teams, you have to bring them on a court. You have to face your authorities, find a way to sponsor your matters, your activities, and you are doing the job for the benefit of the young athletes in your country and those that represent you on the court for the national team. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for your attention.
Muy bien, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Excellent presentation you just made. Now, just to finally round off at this point, report on activities, I think what we need to do is to have the approval of the report that has been presented by Patrick Baumann, our General Secretary. So, you have the report before you. Can we approve it? I think so. I think we can vote by clapping.
Muy bien.
Very good. So we're now going to move on to the next item, which are the amendments to the FIBA General Statutes. And we have also a change in certain rules under this point. Patrick.
Here, up in the center stage, I'd like to walk you through briefly the amendments to the General Statutes. They're more technical than anything, but I'd like to walk you through. The first amendment that we would like to ask you for your approval, and we will ask you for the approval in block because they are 2 basic simple changes, is a change in Article 15 where we include the red wording which says to adopt and modify the internal regulations and other rules and regulations of FIBA, including any implementing measures designed to comply with ordre public. Now that's a very specific legal terminology. Basically, we just simply want to comply with the law. And it is a result of the debates and the discussions we are currently having within the context of the conflict with the EuroLeague and the discussions with the European Commission and under the European law. We need to have this change in order to make sure that the Central Board, if needed, will be able to apply or change the rules and the regulations so that we comply with the basic principles of ordre public under the European jurisdiction or any other jurisdiction. Ordre public basically in this particular context is meant in order to comply with any antitrust law that may affect our activities. That's the first change. And so mainly for lawyers to understand. And the second change is simply to reflect the realities of what I have told you before, and including also some swapping of places for alphabetical order. I think the one that did this before in 2014 was probably had a couple glasses too many of wine when he wrote the list down. So we just need to swap them and put them in the proper order. As I mentioned, Timor-Leste moving to one zone from another, the new members, and obviously those that have kindly resigned to make space for the British Basketball Federation, and here mentioned as Great Britain. So those are the two amendments or the two sets of amendments that we would like to propose to you to accept. Mr. President, the floor is yours if you want to proceed to the acceptance of those two changes.
I think that we could vote on this. If we want to approve the change in this statute, can I take that as read? Any opponents? Okay, the statutes are approved. Thank you. Please continue, Patrick.
You can applaud afterwards to make sure that we spell the names of the countries properly. It's more. The second point that I would like to address to you is a result of the debate that have happened at the Central Board level and are related to the official basketball rules and to the topic of the headgear. You know that there's been debates on this within the basketball family and beyond the basketball family. Traditional dress codes in some countries covering heads and or the entire body currently, as per our rules, are incompatible with the rule 442, which says basically headgear is not permitted. The work has been done over the last 4 years in order to try to test what is happening at the country level. There's been an exception given to those countries that requested it, that at domestic level they could use the headgear as they desired. And after this test, the Technical Commission has now come forward with a proposal to allow headgear to be worn by players. And the Central Board has discussed the rule, which I can show you here in a bullet form point, and has accepted the principle of this rule. But given that it has ramifications well beyond the normal official basketball rule, it felt it appropriate that we somehow present this for ratification to the Congress in the hope that you would unanimously support this change and allow any kind of person that is wearing headgear for whatever reasons those are to participate and compete in the international events and not just simply at domestic events. The headgear therefore would be allowed if you also would support and ratify the approval of the decision taken by the board when it has specific colors, not to have too much multicolor on the court, that the team is the same, with the same color, that we can still identify the player that is being played, that it's not dangerous to the others, and that's basically the rest of those conditions that are here, there. Now, there's been some tests, and I would like to thank our friends from the Iranian Basketball Federation who have conducted a few tests. As also Dr. Zaiching, you mentioned, we've had quite a historic moment not so long ago where we had those tests and everybody was invited to see a women's basketball game in Iran without any restrictions on anyone being able to attend it. And this was a particular moment and certainly a very historic moment. So the Central Board has approved this, and if you do not mind, we'd like to we'd like you to ratify this so that we can implement it as of the 1st October 2017. And if you feel so, we'd be very happy if you just applaud and help us making this a great change for basketball and for women's basketball in particular. Thank you very much for your support. This is certainly for many of our member federations relief, and hopefully also motivation for a lot of women to join the game, a lot of countries to be more successful, but not only women, of course, also others in other community, whether it's in India or in other places in the world, will feel extremely grateful to you for your support for this. Thank you very much.
Bueno, estamos llegando al
So we're coming now to the end of the morning session, but this afternoon we've got the workshops that still lie ahead. So I'm going to ask the General Secretary, who can explain to all the participants how we're going to work this afternoon. So this is going to be the last item on the agenda, and this afternoon we're going to go straight into the workshops. Patrick.
We have now lunch break, and as we indicated, we are going to have 4 workshops that are being held simultaneously. The 4 workshops, if you don't mind showing them, thank you very much, are about 1, building the National Federation Standard Development Pathway. So it is about that pillar 1 that I mentioned to you, the National Federation Development. The workshop number 2 is about the second pillar. It's about the new competition system, which is for everyone, whether you are in the group where goes to China or in the next group that tries to qualify for the Continental. It's about maximizing those opportunities and how you address public authorities in that particular. The third one is about 3-on-3, about getting more information, exchange on how you feel, and hopefully you will get out with some very practical tools on how to be successful in that, as Andorra has been, or as the Netherlands are showing, or as Guam has been, or Belize. And the fourth one is basketball and media in the digital age. So I think that fits pretty well with our partnership with Perform on one hand, but also with our partnership with Tencent, thanks to Perform, that we will hear more tomorrow afternoon. These 4 workshops, you are divided by regions. On your accreditation, you do have the color. So we suppose you know to which group you belong. You will be going to a room which is for, as an example, the FIBA Africa will be in this room, so you don't move. You will come back here and you stay here. FIBA Asia and Oceania will go to the Rose and Peony at the lower level 2, so that's 1 floor down. FIBA Americas they go also, Magnolia and Chamomile. There's no chamomile tea, however, they're given at lower level 2. And for our friends from Europe, you have at the mezzanine floor, Kowloon, which is in front, in fact, on the other side of where you have breakfast. You will be there. Now, you will not move. These will always be your rooms for this afternoon and for tomorrow morning. Those that run the workshops will move. They will come to you. So your room will always be the same, and you will not have to move. Now, for this afternoon, these are the workshops that you can expect. So as I said, if I just take the first line, our friends from Africa will stay here. It will be about basketball and media in the digital age at 2:30, and then at 4:15 about building the standard development pathway, and then tomorrow morning you will have the other 2 workshops, and so on for the others. Then tonight, just to give you the last information on a practical level, this is the schedule for day 2, which is simply a rotation of the workshop. And then for tonight, we will have, I'm just trying to find at what time, is it 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock? For tonight? Now when you need them, they're dispersed. Sorry? 7? So at 1900 we will have a dinner here in the hotel. Now first one remark. It's going to be Hong Kong style. So you will experience Hong Kong style cuisine as if you were walking around in the markets in the back streets of this hotel. So what does it say? 7:30. Perfect, thank you. 7:30. So please, the same way you would walk around in the back streets here of the Hong Kong markets, you're not going to come with tie and suit. You are coming casual. So we would like to see you tomorrow morning, tonight in a casual mood for hawker food in the streets of Hong Kong, but in the hotel. So thank you very much for your patience this morning. Have a good lunch and go to your rooms at 2:30 for the workshops. Thank you.
Dinner is here. The lunch is.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where it is.
I think there's a time.